Well, thank you very much, and Governor Kim Reynolds has done an incredible job for calling me, and with you and Chuck and Joni, we have come through for you, and we will always come through for Iowa, for you. We're pleased to be joined by Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf, who's been doing a fantastic job, and we're going to the border in a little while, and we're going to see the wall, part of the wall that has been built. We're up to almost 300 miles. Can you believe that? 300 miles. And it's moving along rapidly, and we're very proud of it. It's had a tremendous impact on people coming into our country illegally, especially with the pandemic, because Mexico's got some very big problems on the pandemic, very heavily infected, and we've stopped them. It's the strongest we've been on the border in many, many years, probably decades. So it's been very good. Thank you very much, Chad. And FEMA Administrator Pete Gaynor. Sure. Pete, thank you very much. He's been so busy I don't even talk to him anymore. I just say, hi, Pete. I said, where's next? But you've been doing really a fantastic job, and we appreciate it. And Senator Chuck Grassley, an incredible man and a friend of mine and somebody that represents the state so well. And I almost don't have a chance when he calls, right, Joni?
That's
we almost don't have. And then on top of it, Joni Ernst calls. And between the two of them, Kim,
we got a great team.
You get what you want, right? But we really do. We have a fantastic team. And also state and local officials and Iowans affected by this incredible storm last week. For those of you that don't know what happened, a powerful hurricane force winds pummeled Iowa like I guess you haven't really seen before, right?
Yeah,
has this ever happened, a thing like this?
Not to this extent. Have we experienced anything even close
the size and the power of the winds. All Americans are united in grief and prayer for the precious life that was lost. So how many people were lost, would you say?
Right now we've had 3 fatalities, and when you look at the severity of the damage and how widespread it is, and especially in Lynn County that you're in right now, it's been a blessing that we haven't had any more loss of life than we've had.
Oh, well, that's good. 3 is too many, but
3
that's
is
a lot.
Too many.
And people injured, I know, but but they'll be okay, right?
Yeah.
This took a big chunk out of your entire state, Chuck. This was a big portion. I guess more than half of your counties were affected, and some very badly, right?
About 113 million acres of crop.
Amazing. No, it's amazing. So my administration's already working with Iowa officials, some of whom are with us now, to provide aid and to assess the damage. Winds from 80 to 110 miles per hour have carved a path of destruction through over half of Iowa's really great counties, many of which I got to know over the years. Up to 43% of the state's corn and soybean crops have been damaged or totally destroyed. 332 cell towers were damaged, think of that, impacting 1 million residents. Nearly 500,000 of the Iowa electric customers lost power, but I understand the power is back to about 90%.
That's the goal by the end of the night, so we're making progress and getting closer.
And the power company's done a good job.
Yep.
Under the circumstances?
We had 595,000 households without power. 97% of Lynn County had no power from the storm,
Wow.
So unbelievable.
So they really did a good job getting it back, right?
Yeah,
So fast.
with the
That's
compact
fantastic.
aid, mutual aid, really implementing that, we've seen a lot of collaboration take place.
Fantastic. Thank them for us. And schools here in Cedar Rapids were hit very hard, and many of the schools that plan to open are now going to be delayed, not for the pandemic reason, but for an unrelated reason that nobody thought would happen. So yesterday I approved a disaster declaration for Iowa, you know that? And it was done in record time, and we're offering the full support of the federal government, so you'll take care of that.
Sure.
And the USDA also announced assistance for impacted farmers, just as we delivered $117 million to the Cedar Rapids Flood Mitigation Project in 2018, and that was another big one.
Yeah.
Cedar Rapids has had a rough couple of years when you think about it, right? But we took good care of the flooding, and just like we did that, we're going to help you recover from the storm, and we'll get it done, and we'll all get it done together. Iowans have always been resilient and strong and tough, and great people. From the depths of this grave hardship, we will rebuild even stronger than before. We're going to be in fantastic shape in a very short period of time. You have a outstanding group of people representing you, and maybe if I could, Kim, you could start off and say a few words as to what's going on and how we can further help.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to extend my gratitude for the incredible turnaround time. In less than 24 hours, you were able to approve the major disaster declaration, and that provides a lot of insurance to our communities that have been impacted by the derecho. It's basically a 40-mile wide tornado that went through the state of Iowa, 112 miles an hour per wind, up to some of the highest speeds. And as I indicated, 595,000 households without power, significant damage to our electricity and communications infrastructure. But the capacity of our utilities to get people back up has been great. Appreciated Secretary Administrator Gaynor being on the ground yesterday and seeing firsthand some of the damage. 27 counties will be adding more, 16 public assistance in the disaster declaration, 27 getting individual assistance, and that'll have a huge impact on Iowans. And just to really appreciate that.
You have to do.
Yes, sir, we're on the ground now.
How do you compare this in terms of damage with what you had with the flooding a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
So this is just so much widespread. When you think about entire counties that have been taken out, you heard the senator say, over half of our crops have been devastated. We are anticipating these early estimates, about $4 billion worth of damage. 3.7 of that is through agriculture, between the loss of crops and structures, and then...
So this is even more than the floods?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Wow.
More widespread, and we'll have additional counties that will be added. They're working on that right now. The mayors will talk about some of the early estimates that they're seeing, but significant damage. And but we will come back stronger and better than ever, and we've got a lot of help, and we just appreciate the quick response that we've been able to.
You have your friends from the Army Corps of Engineers. Nobody better. They helped you the last time. You didn't think you'd be back so soon, General, did you?
Well, I appreciate the response with the floods.
Well, Mr. President, of course, we work for FEMA and the administrator. We're very, very proud to be out here. We've been asked to do some assessments on some of the debris removal. We think they've got about 1.5 million cubic yards, and the state's going to do a lot of that heavy lifting. But whatever we can do to help, the Army Corps is all in.
So, Chuck, with that voice, wouldn't he be a great politician? His voice is almost as tough as yours. Not quite.
As long as he doesn't run in Iowa.
That's a good point. Chuck, what would you like to say?
First of all, I think you're coming here and representing the federal government and as President of the United States to show your work and helping us work through this is very, very important. So we thank you for that. And if I were going to compare the 150 miles I traveled from Boone to Cedar Rapids Thursday, Friday, and Saturday last week, the damage to the crops, I've seen corn flat on the ground in my 50 years of farming, but I have never seen it mile after mile and, just flat on the ground, and very little of it recoverable, I think. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think that one of the things that make you proud of Iowans is, I think you probably know, neighbor helping neighbor, and things of that nature. So we thank you for coming, and the widespread damage that you're going to be alerted to, and the homes lost and the power outages and the crop damage is all important. But you're stepping up to help with that declaration, and we thank you.
And it's difficult because you had the largest order of corn in history. Did you know that last week? Yeah. From of all groups, China. How about that? China, which, I don't know, makes you think a little bit, doesn't it? Huh? But China made the largest order of corn twice over the last week. So how does that affect an order like that when you have such damage to the crops, to the corn crops?
Well, I think last week when the price of grain went up quite a bit, it helps, but then that's going to help those people that have grain to sell, but the farmers that have been hurt with the damaged crop, the only help.
But are they able to fulfill an order like that? Will they be able to get an order that big?
If that's your question, the answer is yes, because we have so much carryover from the year before.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
That's the two biggest orders of corn in history we got. That's because they think I'm not happy, and I'm not. I'm not happy at all. Just the opposite. Joni, please go ahead.
And Mr. President, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time and your assistance to the folks here in Iowa. And the discussion that we had yesterday morning, I thank you for that. And I can tell that you really do care about the citizens on the ground here. One thing that would be helpful, of course, with the impact to the ag economy, the loss of so many crops, is our farmers would love to know that with these gap year waivers that the oil refineries are submitting to the EPA, that we just dispense of those. We not allow them to move forward. Some of these waivers would apply to years 9 years ago, 8 years ago. Our farmers just really need some help this year, obviously, with the crop damage, and that would be a great step forward, is working.
So I approved the ethanol, and we did the whole thing with the 12-month and all of the others. Let me ask you, how is ethanol doing with the markets? It's got to be a little bit tough, right?
It's very tough right now, and through COVID, we saw a decrease in driving, and so the sales of ethanol have not been up where they should be, and we've seen that all across the industry, the impact. And now, after the crop damage, it just sets our farmers even.
But they'll be ready
back.
when the market comes back. They'll be ready like never before.
Yes, they will. And what we need, just help from the EPA to follow the intent of the law with the renewable fuels.
All right, we'll speak to them.
standard.
I'll speak to them
Mr.
myself.
President.
I'll do it myself. Chad, please.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. President, let me again commend you, as the senator did, for coming here to Cedar Rapids. I think that sends a strong signal to all Iowans, and certainly thank you for providing the disaster relief funds that you have done so quickly.
Don't forget, this has been a very loving area for me. Cedar Rapids has been fantastic, and we've developed a lot of great relationships in Cedar Rapids, so I never had a doubt, really. So,
I had the opportunity last week again to talk with Governor Reynolds about the devastation. And of course, FEMA has been here really since day one, and Administrator Gaynor has been here over the last 24 hours, working with the governor and all of her staff on these priorities as well. And FEMA stood up really since day one, their regional coordination center here, to make sure that tie between FEMA and the state was absolutely critical and spot on. So it's there. You're certainly granting that major disaster declaration is a huge step forward to providing that public assistance and the mitigation assistance. So really want to thank you for all the work that you've done over the past several days to make sure that we get the resources to Iowans.
We wanted to get it done fast, and we did record fast. Pete, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for approving the deck in record time. Really means a lot to the governor and her staff. We had a great tour yesterday. Went out. We saw firsthand the devastation. So aside from the level of devastation,
were you surprised?
I was. I had
He's
not
seen it all. This guy has seen devastation like nobody, but this is bad.
Yes, sir. And so aside from the devastation, the thing that impressed me most was the spirit of Iowans helping Iowans out there. So volunteers helping volunteers with food. We just came from Operation Barbecue, that's in the back lot of the airport, serving tens of thousands of meals. The National Guard on streets, clearing streets. Electrical restoration crews as far away as Nova Scotia here to help restore power. Really unbelievable. We have a ways to go, but the amount that they've gone so far, quite impressive. So we'll be here until we're done, right beside the governor and her team.
What is the timing, do you think?
Well, it will take some time to clear debris. I think debris is going to be some of the hardest things to do. There's lots of it out there. So that does take time, but we have a plan to do it, and again, we'll be here until the job is done.
Can you find usage in some of the corn? Is it aged enough, or is it just really not going to be able to be used?
Well, Mr. President, I'm Secretary of Agriculture here in Iowa, and it'll depend. A lot of it, as the senator said, is it won't come back up. You won't be able to harvest it for any use. Some of it will, but there are millions of acres of corn that just won't flat out be able to be harvested. So, but to your point,
you've never seen anything like that.
No, not to the widespread. Governor mentioned it. I mean, we're talking hundreds of miles by 40, 50, 60 miles wide. It's not that we don't it's not that we're not used to dealing with difficult weather in agriculture. It's just something of this scale is really tough.
What about other states, by the way? How was it? They weren't affected nearly
really,
like this. But
it started in South Dakota, went to western Ohio, but really if you get into western Illinois, there was some crop damage, but nothing like what you're seeing or what you'd see from central Iowa really into eastern Iowa. It took the bullseye.
Incredible. Okay, thank you very much. Good job. Would anybody like to say anything, please? Go ahead. Please.
I'm Brad Hart, Mayor of Cedar Rapids.
Good.
Welcome back to Cedar Rapids.
Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the disaster proclamation. That is really important for us, and it's starting to, not only the federal aid, but the rest of the country is starting to take note. And so we're getting volunteers and help from around the country, and that's really important. Almost every one of our almost 60,000 homes and businesses had some kind of damage. That's how widespread it was. Most of the city didn't have power for a week. I still don't have power at my home, and there's about maybe another 20 or 30 or 40,000 people that are still waiting for power to come back up in Cedar Rapids.
You expected when? When do you expect
today?
Everything?
Hopefully today.
Oh, good. All right. Well, then they've done a very good job.
No, they have. They've brought in thousands of linemen to work on this. One of the things that and I have a letter that I'll present, leave with you, but in the disaster proclamation declaration, if we could get the individual assistance, because so many people have not only, they may have homeowners insurance, but there's still a premium to pay. They still have to throw out food that the insurance won't cover, and most policies for insurance do not cover removal of trees. They'll pay to move it off your house, but not once it's on the ground. You have to pay for that, and that could be tens of thousands of dollars for lots of homeowners. And so adding the individual assistance component to the disaster declaration would really help so many people get those trees out of their yard and not have such a financial burden for them. So that would be a big help for us.
How have the insurance companies responded and acted, would you say?
Personally,
have they tried to hold back?
From my house, they've been very attentive, and I know that many of the insurance companies have brought in hundreds of adjusters to try to process claims. But it's hard when we didn't even have power and didn't even have cell service for several days.
Are you pretty well covered with insurance? I mean, you have big
I hope
clauses.
so, but the trees in my yard will cost me lots of money, more than what my coverage is, and I have pretty good coverage. But I can handle that, but there's so many Iowans who cannot. So that would be a great help
All right, good. We'll take
thousands
a look
of
at
those.
You know about that? Yes,
And it's actually part of the disaster declaration, and we're actually accumulating the damage and the numbers, and we'll be able to add that on, and we should be able to do that in a short amount of time.
You'll let me know.
Yes, sir.
Those assessments are coming through.
Yep.
We expect those probably the next week or so.
Yep.
Turn on the individual assistance.
How many people will that affect?
Well, I think it could affect 55,000 people at least, because 55,000 buildings, homes, mainly homes and businesses were impacted by that.
Amazing. It's big. All right. It's amazing. Okay. We'll take care of it, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I'm Nick Abouasley. I'm the mayor of the city of Marion. We're a city of 40,000 people right next to Cedar Rapids. And thank you so much for the declaration and the speed with which you approved that. We are Iowans. We help each other. We pull together, but with this scale of devastation of this disaster, we need help, and we're really grateful to be getting the help from the state and from you. As the Mayor Hart said, the devastation is very widespread, and that's what's unique about this disaster. It's not just one area of our community. We estimate that 90 to 95% of buildings, homes, and businesses in our town have some type of damage. And the tree removal, my understanding is that, as the mayor said, the insurance policies will pay for removing the tree off the house, but a lot of trees didn't fall on the houses. And so the average tree removal is, as I understand, is $3,500 per tree. And so I know someone who lost 39 trees, large, mature trees, some of them over 100 years old. I know another the tree farmer who lost 5,000 trees. So if you drive around the community, there are just the debris covers up the buildings.
So is that a liability when you have trees, all those trees? You love those trees. You'd rather keep those trees, right?
Well, they provide tree cover and are very helpful for energy efficiency.
So that's really a loss.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. The other thing, we're worried about individuals and businesses because on top of this, the economic stress of COVID, obviously, now people have this type of stress with the financial burden of removing the trees and clearing the debris.
How are you doing with the COVID? How's your area, both of you? How are you doing with COVID?
Well, we were had the second highest number of cases and deaths, but we're now running in fourth or fifth, which is, I don't want to win that race, so I'm happy that we've moved down. We're working hard. The community has stepped up, and masks, and businesses are requiring masks to protect the customers and their own workers. I think we'll get through it. People really understand the importance of it now, and people have adjusted their lifestyle. But a vaccine will.
Yeah, well, they're doing great on vaccines, and they're doing great on therapeutics, and even places like I was reading, New Zealand is in such good shape, and then today they have a big outbreak. So it's the invisible enemy, but we're getting through it, and the vaccines are coming along really well soon, and therapeutically really good.
We are concerned, Mr. President, though, that we might lose a lot of small businesses because just as they're starting to recover from COVID and open up for business again and regain their business.
You get hit.
Now they got hit. And so if there's a way to help them, maybe extend the PPP.
Well, we're going to look very serious, let the individual help. Okay, let's do that. Okay?
Sure.
It's a double whammy. Let's help. Please.
State representative, and the district that I represent is in Marion and Cedar Rapids, so I've been working with these gentlemen since the disaster hit last week. I just want to touch on, a lot has already been said here about what this state needs, and thank you for your leadership in getting that presidential disaster declaration. I'm a mom myself. I have a 7- and 9-year-old, and you touched on schools and how challenging that's going to be going forward. I was just talking with my superintendent this morning. We've already delayed the start of school until September 14th. For Linn-Mar District because of this disaster. So they had already made a lot of return to learn plans dealing with the challenges with COVID. So I think making sure that we take care of our school buildings. They suffered damage, catastrophic damage in many cases, similar to a hurricane. So exactly what you might see on the East Coast during a hurricane, we've now experienced that right here in the heartland. So I just want to say I appreciate your speed in getting that through. Those resources will be greatly appreciated and greatly used to help our kids.
When was the last time something like this happened, would you say, if ever?
Not this
like 100
dramatic,
years
nothing
ago?
like widespread. Yeah.
Nothing like this.
The scale is what is the issue here, and they've touched on it. Everybody had damage, which meant normally when we would be out jumping to another community's aid, everybody had to deal with their own community and the challenges that they were facing. And so we've seen still Iowans, they finish their own yard and they run right to their neighbor's yard, and that's just what we do. That's what we did in my neighborhood. We just got power last night, and you could have heard the cheers. So I think that makes a huge difference in people's recovery, but there are a lot of challenges ahead, and we will see those in the coming days, but appreciate your open line of communication. And
well, we'll take care of it, and you're going to have a very fast recovery, I predict. Please, go ahead. Yeah.
Mr. President, I'm Wayne Blackford. I'm a farmer and a cattle feeder right north of Marion here, and I want to thank you for coming to Cedar Rapids. But I think the big thing, we have insurance on our buildings and our farm, and we also have crop insurance, which we want to thank you for, and keeping that in place over the next several years. We really need the crop insurance. It's going to be a big help. But we're finding with our buildings, we're well insured, but we need profitability in agricultural to keep going. We need to be able to rebuild and rebuild right, not just cobble things together.
But you feel good about it?
I feel good about it.
And you really have good insurance. Most of you seem to have very good insurance.
Well, we've seen tornadoes before, and usually when we have a tornado, it hits one spot. We actually feed cattle on 11 farms. And so, yes, we've had trouble before, but never on this many places at once.
So this was, in a way, less dangerous than a tornado, but much wider, right? But the point of a tornado is truly brutal.
You know, my wife and I were in the house, and we said, this is not a tornado. But when the siding went off the back side, we decided to go to the basement. So.
It might have been. He said, maybe it is a tornado.
Yeah, so it felt like a tornado. I don't know if it sounded like a freight train, but it was devastating.
That's incredible.
I never seen stuff go by the window so fast.
Good job. Very good. Please.
Good morning, Mr. President. Mayor Jarek Armstrong, Mayor of Clarence, which is about 35 miles east of here on Highway 30. It's a town of about 1,000 people. Small town like a lot of communities in Iowa. We just want to thank you for everything you're doing for the state of Iowa and all our small communities, because we are going to need the help. We were the hardest hit community in Cedar County. Numerous homes damaged, trees down, as the other mayor said. But you stated earlier the resilience of Iowans really came out last week, and I can say that for a fact in my community. The people that stepped up to the plate, the farmers that brought their equipment into town, got it out from underneath of their buildings that were collapsed on top of the equipment, and brought their equipment to town to help clean up the mess so we could get power restored to town, which we got back about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It really brings out the best in people, and Iowans are some of the best at that. So we lost, there's a farmer north of town that lost a barn that was in his family for 8 generations. So it is something like we've never seen before. And we just appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, too. And Kaylee, let me ask you, with all that's going on in the world, is the world aware of what happened in Iowa? Because it is really something. Well, we're going to take care of it. Would you like to say something? Thank you very much.
It means a lot to us. I'm the executive director at Mission Hope here in Cedar Rapids. I've been there almost 4 years.
Great.
We work to help people who are homeless, nearly homeless, living in poverty. And this week, I became one of those people. Our family lost our house, due to the damage from the storm. I know we'll be able to come back. We've got good insurance, like everybody sitting here. Really, really grateful for that. Just to echo what these guys said, we have a 2.5 acre wooded lot, fully mature oak trees over 100 years old, and we also have a it's going to be well in excess of $250,000 just to remove trees. So
it's a big part of it. It's a very big part of it.
Yeah, something that our family was not quite prepared for. We didn't even own a chainsaw. So, I want to shift gears for a second and talk about the people that I'm blessed and lucky to serve at Mission Hope. They're hungry today, and it's day 9 with no power in that neighborhood, and they're not just hungry for food. They're hungry for compassion from our leaders, just to know that our leaders care and are working on their behalf. They're isolated people, so they don't necessarily have good access to the right now without power. They don't have internet access. They don't have coverage of the local news whatsoever. But they're hungry to know that. They're hungry for human touch. This COVID pandemic has isolated these people, and I just went through our lines this week of people who were waiting for lunch, giving out hugs, even in spite of the pandemic. Just people are hanging on to a hug and clinging to personal words of encouragement. Their physical needs are not being met. They lost their food. Many of them have lost their shelter. They don't know where their clothes are. And as I mentioned, they don't have power. Though we do appreciate all the hard work we can see being done in our community, as of yesterday and this morning, we still do not have power. And finally, they need help financially. due to COVID and the uncertainties of all the business being closed, many of them were just returning to work, and now they've been off work again. And so they're definitely hurting. We're strong as Iowans. You've heard that all around the table. We're strong and we're resilient, Mr. President, but we are tired and we need your help.
Thank you very much. Very much. Would anybody like to ask any questions? The governor, senators, or FEMA, or Chad, any questions for them concerning this situation, which we're going to take care of very rapidly in Iowa? Anybody? Okay, it's been very well covered. Senator, thank you very much. Joni, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's great. We'll get it taken care of. We'll get it done very quickly. All of you will get it done. Ashley, we'll get it done very quickly. Chad, thank you. Governor, it's all done. So now we have to start working, but the papers are done. You're going to look into the one event quickly, and we'll get that approved, okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.